Well, this is part 4 of a series for women living well on homeschooling. And in this section, I want to discuss the challenges of homeschooling. And the first challenge is bad behavior. I think for all of us, we struggle as moms. You know, we don't want to be rubbing our kids the wrong way. We want this to be a blessing time. We imagine homeschooling to be just this really sweet time. But the reality is we have bad days and our kids have bad days. And so one of the biggest challenges is getting my children to sit beside me and cooperate. So one of the best ways that I've been able to diffuse anger and tempers, because oftentimes their temper and anger actually makes me have a temper and get angry, and I don't like that, and I've had to learn that the best way is to not react. So my son has more of a temper than my daughter, and all I do when he doesn't cooperate is I pull him away, his chair back away from the table, and I say, you sit there, and when you're ready to work, let me know. Because he knows that that takes up some of his break time, some of his fun time, some of his snack time, while he's just sitting there doing nothing. And I will have him sit there, and then I honestly get on the computer and I'll go on Facebook or check my email. I do something and I act as though I could care less that he's upset and not cooperating. And I come back and I ask him, are you ready to work? And if he does not answer, he ignores me, or he still has a grumpy face, and I say, okay, keep sitting there, and I'll go rotate laundry and, do other things. I come back, are you ready? And I just keep coming and going until finally he says, I'm ready. If we start to work again and there's not cooperation, back you go. And that's the best way for me just to diffuse it, stay calm, it doesn't hurt me. And I don't want to get into big discipline and, all of that. It's just a very simple way for me to manage the behavior. Another challenge of homeschooling is surviving the stores. I mean, the reality is you're with your kids 24/7. You cannot go anywhere without them attached to your hip. And the store is the hardest place. My kids, for some reason, like to, start spinning in circles, hopping on the squares, being loud, hanging on the cart, almost tipping the cart, crazy behavior. Well, back when I had babysitters, when they were a bit younger, my children, I had a bad night where they didn't behave for their babysitter. And I thought, I don't like not knowing what's happening while I'm gone. So I created a system where I put a little traffic light on my refrigerator. And I put a little chip clip on the green. And I told the kids, if this chip clip is on the green, that means you had good behavior. When I come home, if I see the green light, you get a treat. If I see a yellow light, you get nothing. And if I see the red light, you're going to be disciplined. And so there was incentive for them to end up on that green light so they could get a little treat or a little reward. And so for a long time we used that. When babysitters came, we had this traffic light that we used, and they learned that system. And this was when they were like 2 and 4. Well, they learned that system so well that I've begun to use it in the store years ago now, probably for about 2 years. I've been using it when we walk in the store. I remind them, you are both on green. And if they start to behave and spin and act crazy, or they're touching all the fruit and, disobeying, I say, you're on yellow. And if they move to red, that means when we get home, they get disciplined. But oftentimes we get to yellow and they work really hard to get back to green. They'll straighten up, Mom, I'm going to behave, I promise, and they start trying. And if they end up on green at the end, I let them pick out a little treat, like some M&Ms or something, or Skittles, which we don't really keep in our home, so it's a big treat. And some people might not like to reward with food, but for us, it works. So anyhow, that's what I do. I use the red light, green light, yellow light system. And if that works for you, I recommend it. But first start it in the home, use it in the home so they understand and they can imagine it when they're at the store. Another challenge of homeschooling is surviving the long afternoons. It can just be so long. The days are long, especially in the middle of the winter. And so room time has been one of the biggest blessings. I described it in part 3 of this video, so I'm not going to go into it again. Well, I can briefly. Just so you know, I started my children actually in playpen time when they're about, 12 months, 18 months old. Once they could sit up, they played with toys in there, and I would put them by a window and put some music on and let them learn to play on their own in some quietness without me there for 10 or 15 minutes. As they grew older, I continued by putting a baby gate on their door and let them have room time when they were 2 or 3. And when they gave up their naps, it just moved to the afternoon nap time where they would go to their rooms. So this has been a part of their lives, all their lives. They've had room time or playpen time. So that has really helped me as a mom to get a break when I need it. Cabin fever is another challenge. I know a lot of people have it anyways in the winter, but when you're homeschooling, it's even worse because you're all day long together. And so letting them get energy out, be lenient on your boys, let them dive, let them throw their balls, let them be a little crazy so they can get that energy out, send them out in the snow, get them outside as much as you can, even in the cold. Another challenge is socialization. It's the #1 criticism that people have of homeschoolers. We're very sensitive about that, so please don't. But my children, the way we combat socialization issues is we have them in gymnastics, swim class. My son played flag football with the public school system. Also, he was on the basketball team here in the public school system. He does martial arts. They're in a program at church on Sunday evenings. They go on Tuesday morning with me to Bible study to play with other children. And I have play dates and Sunday school. They get plenty of socialization. The next one is sometimes we just feel like we need help. It is a challenge to do it all alone. Do not be afraid to ask another mom to do a co-op where she teaches one day your kids and then the next day you take her kids and you teach her so she can have a break. For me, my help has come through my father. I had to admit that I needed help, and I went to my parents and said, you know what, blogging and the kids and my husband traveling and things is too much. Can dad help? And Dad does help. He comes on Friday mornings, and he teaches my children their science and history for the week, and that's a huge blessing. But we have to humble ourselves and say we need help. And yeah, so those are really the biggest challenges. The last challenge I have down is the question of, am I good enough? I think it's hard for us as moms. We're not sure, am I doing good enough? Am I teaching them everything they need to know? And that can just be a fear. We need to pray. We need to be in God's Word. We need to depend on Him to know that it's going to be okay and we can make it through on those hard days. So that is how I handle some of our challenges. And in the next series, I'm going to share with you some of the variables that changed, my plans for next year for homeschooling, and also just a spiritual thing about sheltering our children. Walk with the King.